Super Mario Bros. 2 Mario Madness. The version familiar to those in the West is based on the Japanese game Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic. The original Japanese version of Mario 2, otherwise known as the Lost Levels, was deemed too difficult for Western audiences. Ironically though, this adaptation is itself incredibly challenging, both casually and to speedrun. Top times in this game require tight platforming, incredibly precise glitches, mechanics that vary greatly between characters, and technical boss fights. That said, you can go fast in this game without using world record level certified nutty glitches. In fact, you can complete the game in under 9 minutes using only strats that are very approachable. In this video, I'll walk you through what I feel are the easiest possible strats to get a time under 9 minutes. Easiest in this context is very subjective, so I'll also cover as many alternative, backup, and advanced strats that I can. And while there will be tips and tricks in this video that even new runners to the game could benefit from, such as visual cues for certain jumps, the intended audience for this video is speedrunners of SMB2 who already have a solid grasp of the basic game mechanics. I'll post links to beginner's guides in the description along with timestamps for the different sections of the tutorial. I'll first begin by going through level by level to cover what I feel are the most basic fast strats along with some alternatives and backups. After, there will be an uninterrupted demonstration of the full run, and I'll conclude by going through level by level again with some other more advanced strats. After selecting Toad for 1-1, the only goal on the first screen is to quickly enter the door at the bottom. While this section plays excruciatingly slowly, I'll take the opportunity to cover a few general ideas. First, there are numerous ways to play many of the levels in the Any% run. If the platforming route I demonstrate here is uncomfortable for you, and there's another path that doesn't require slowing down, feel free to use that route. You travel the same horizontal speed on the ground as in the air, so as long as you're holding the run button and moving forward, there's no wrong way to do it. Second, this is a hard game, and many of the hardest tricks at this level are concentrated in Worlds 6 and 7. You will lose runs in these levels. I strongly recommend getting as many late game reps as possible in run situations, so that when you enter the later levels on PB pace, they feel a bit more routine. Now, as mentioned earlier, just get in the door as quickly as you can. Entering the main section of 1-1, the first thing you'll want to do is a full jump from on top of the first vegetable in the ground, so you can grab the first enemy, which increases Toad's running speed. After that, platform your way through the level however you see fit. Generally speaking, you want to minimize time spent on enemies that are traveling in the opposite direction as you, but don't lose any sleep over this. At the end here, jump over these two enemies and throw the Shy Guy onto the log. Hop up and perform a double jump up to the top by barely brushing the enemy's hitbox and jumping twice. In the cave, we'll be clipping through the ground to perform a small wrong warp. Once you've reached this wall, begin charging a super jump. No need to rush this as you want some room to jump up and land next to the Shy Guy. Take damage and quickly jump on top to grab it. Run all the way to the left wall, and once you begin to fall, turn around and throw it hard into the right side wall. Allow yourself to fall all the way to the ground, and shortly before the Shy Guy lands on you, start holding up. The timing here is not terribly precise if you were able to throw the Shy Guy so that it falls slowly. This will take you to the Birdo fight area, and the game still thinks you are on the previous vine as that's how you transitioned the screen. Attempt a vine jump by holding both up and left, and jumping within the first 3 frames after letting go of the vine. Make sure to continue holding the jump button after attempting it, as if you miss the vine jump, holding A will allow you to land on a higher step and still make it to Birdo on time for the earliest possible egg cycle. No need to rush the first 2 hits, as it won't affect the timing of subsequent eggs, which spit out every 4.2 seconds regardless. On the 3rd hit, find a way you're comfortable with that allows you to grab the egg very quickly. I personally like walking onto the egg as Birdo opens her mouth. There are no level-ending frame rules in this game, so every moment on the 3rd hit counts. If you were to make any mistakes throughout the level, such as a slow door entry or a bonk during platforming, there are a few ways you can make up some time to still get to Birdo for the early egg. First, you can grab this tweeter for the double jump to make up some time. Make sure to practice this occasionally, as the timing is a bit different, and you may even find it easier than how I first showed. If you miss the double jump in a way where you don't take damage, another backup is to do a full height double jump off of this tweeter. You can't do it off of the Shy Guy, as you would run into the Shy Guy on the level above you. A full height double jump involves releasing the jump button and re-grabbing it as quickly as possible right at the end of the possible window to perform a double jump. This is very tricky, and a lot of people struggle to get this consistently. If you do choose to make this your default method and you're still carrying a Shy Guy from earlier in the level, you can do the full height double jump off of the Shy Guy instead of the tweeter, and have enough horizontal speed where you clear the upper Shy Guy safely. Next, there's a faster way to grab the Shy Guy for the clip. After taking damage, continue walking directly into this Shy Guy. Slap the A then B button in a rolling fashion to grab the enemy. If you hit B before or at the same time as jump, you'll end up grabbing the bomb instead of the Shy Guy. This is another thing you may or may not find easier than the standard method. It's worth having in your back pocket either way. If you're still running a bit late, one final option is to simply land directly on the egg. This is the YOLO strat. As long as you make it to Birdo on time, it doesn't much matter how you got there. And as a reminder, there will be a complete run with no interruptions after going through each level, in case you want to see it all together at full speed. If you're already familiar with the speedrun of this game, there probably won't be anything new you learn here in 1-2. There are, however, a couple more advanced strats later on in this video. With Toad, jump up to the left edge of the higher platform, careful not to take any needless damage. Charge a super jump, and as the Pidgey moves over you to the left, jump up, grab it, and throw it away. Head at least far enough left so that the right side of Toad's head is completely over the brown rocks, though for this strat there's no harm in going all the way over. Position the carpet in this range and go back to the right. I prefer to jump onto the newly spawned Pidgey, but do whatever is comfortable here. Returning to your original carpet gives you a speed boost so that you can quickly make it to the end of the level. There is plenty of time to make it for the earliest egg on this Birdo, hence the lack of haste early in the level. And as in 1-1, the key here is to make the 3rd hit as quickly as possible. Much like 1-2, established runners won't learn anything new in this section for 1-3. Jump up, grab this Shy Guy, and platform your way through the level. Ditch the Shy Guy as late as possible in favor of the potion. I tend to jump the tile before the door and throw the potion the tile after the door. Hop up, enter the door, and warp to World 4. For 4-1, you'll want to pay attention at the beginning of the level. As soon as Toad is visible on screen, perform a small jump as you accelerate faster in the air than on the ground when you're on ice. Next, keep an eye on the second block over the water. A full jump from this block will put you right on the flurry you want to pick up. After, perform some basic platforming and prepare for the next visual cue. At the end of the ice, look for the seam between the final two blocks. A full jump from here will put you at the beginning of the rock so that you can get up without bonking. This is a spot where I frequently manipulate my landing zone by releasing A a bit earlier if I jump too late. Fall down to the lower level and grab the rocket to head to the upper area. Again, jump when you hit the ice, though this one won't cost you as much time if you forget since you start in the air. Next, grab this Shy Guy. Ideally, you'll want to grab it just past halfway so that you get a little boost from the auto bomb, but alternatively, you can grab the Shy Guy at the very front as well. Either method is fine. A quote-unquote perfect grab versus a suboptimal grab isn't going to make or break your run. Jump up to the ice pillar and then to the green platform. I typically jump to the third platform in the next section and then to the tallest pillar. Do a small or medium jump from there to clear the enemies below, and then there are several ways to do this next section. The easiest is probably to do a small turn back on the small pillar here, and then jump onto the first step. Hesitate a brief moment for the auto bomb to get a little closer, then build a little speed to the left and do an arcing jump off of the Shy Guy and onto the top level. Alternatively, you can do this without a hesitation from the second step, though you won't have a chance to course correct if you make a mistake. I tend to have trouble navigating these stairs, so I set up a double jump by throwing the Shy Guy after the little turn back, and then grab the flurry. Be careful not to just run off this next platform, as there's a flurry waiting to run into you. Hop up to the second step and do a turn back jump over the final enemy. Grab the orb, and if you're still at full health, make sure to grab the swag points of trapping your enemy's soul in the rocks by running into it while it's still upside down. There are some slightly faster ways to do this screen in the advanced strats section, but the risk-reward ratio isn't great at this level. At the start of 4-2, run to the right. There's no need to jump here since you're not starting on ice. Begin charging a super jump at the seam between the third and fourth ice blocks. Once charged, jump and grab the vine. Perform a vine jump on whichever side is more comfortable to you, and be careful not to stray too far from the vine if you go left side. Many prefer the right side since the wall acts as a guide, but I tend to like to jump from the same side that I grab a vine or ladder. This vine jump isn't mandatory for sub 9, and it only saves a little time and can cost quite a bit if you scuff it, but I strongly recommend going for it. In 7-2, there's a mandatory vine, or rather chain jump, for a major skip. You want to be confident for it, as missing it could cost a full 4.2 second Wart cycle depending on how the rest of the level goes. If you're feeling unsure of your vine jump skills, there are a few things I would recommend. One is to pick a character other than Luigi and learn the any % run for them. 7-1 on PB pace with one of the characters that only has 3 frames for a vine jump versus Luigi's 8 is a great way to work on them. Another option is to make your way to 5-2. There's a long vine section in the middle of the level that makes for a nice training ground. And now back to 4-2. On the next screen, make your way to the top platform. A full jump from the 4th ice block will position Toad on the first Bezo. 2 small jumps will get you through the first cluster of enemies, and on the second set, I like to do a full jump over the first 2 and slide under the third. For the rest of the screen, there are several ways to navigate through the Bezos. I like to avoid too many slides, as sliding for too short will cause you to take damage and lose all of your momentum, which is extra problematic on ice if you aren't on your toes to do a quick jump to re-accelerate, and sliding for too long will cause you to slow down. Make your way into the door and onto the final screen of the level, the infamous whales. This is a screen that also has quite a few ways to get through quickly. It's important to find a path that is both reliable and doesn't involve any slowdowns or turnbacks. The timing of the whale spouts is pretty unforgiving for slowdowns. Here's the route I take. From the middle block of the first ice platform, a full jump will put you onto this whale's tail. Hold jump again until you clear the next whale's spout and then fall down onto the tail. Jump up onto the rock platforms and grab the potion. Run off onto the first ice block and do a full jump onto the back of the next whale. Run onto the tail and do a small jump up to the larger whale. Press and hold the jump button until you are confident you've cleared the back of the whale. And note that from the very beginning of this whale, even a full jump won't clear the distance and you'll hit the back of the whale. Hitting the back of the tall whales is very dangerous as you don't get much time to recover. Full jump onto the next whale, run off onto the tail, and do another full jump onto the next whale again. Instead of running onto this tail, jump up to the final whale. When Toad is directly below the first overhead ice block, do a full jump onto the tail. Jump over to the platform with the vase, and completely let go of the D-pad. When you've come to a complete stop, release and re-grab the run button to place the potion on the vase. This also works as small Toad, no need to jump. After placing the potion door, jump up, enter the door, and warp to World 6. "6-1 is a doozy. The platforming on this first screen is probably the hardest in the whole any % run at this level. This screen will take some time to get even relatively comfortable with, and even then, you'll lose some runs here. With experience, you'll minimize both the frequency of the missteps as well as the time loss associated with any mistakes. First, I'd recommend passing on trying to grab the Cobrat at the beginning. The time save of grabbing it versus the Shy Guy is minimal. I tend to do a small jump over part of the quicksand so that if I'm too late on my next jump, I am less likely to get stuck. This is completely optional and for most people 100% unnecessary. Hop up onto the first ribcage platform and then over to the Shy Guy. Once you grab it, jump onto the Cobrat and then to the Cobrat in a vase. Immediately do a small jump onto the next ribcage and run off of it into the quicksand. Once you land, hesitate for just a moment before jumping onto the pokey. Alternatively, you can skip this ribcage and land in the quicksand right where you need to jump from, but most people tend to opt for the way I first outlined. From the pokey, jump to the taller cactus, and from the back half of the cactus, full jump onto the next Cobrat. Small jump to the Shy Guy, and then again to the regular speed sand by the tree. Run through the next patch of quicksand and jump onto the ribcage. I like to duck jump near the end of the platform to give myself some extra clearance, but you can make it through here without ducking. Small jump onto the ribcage, and then again onto the Cobrat before jumping to the first cactus. I've seen a few ways to make it through here, but you'll want to make it onto the first of the next two pokies. From there, either jump onto the next one and run off of it, or jump over it and run directly into the small cactus before the Panzer. Jump up, and from the back half of the cactus again, jump to the tallest cactus. If you jump from the first half, you'll likely clip into the tall cactus, and if you do, just immediately jump again to avoid taking damage. Ditch the Shy Guy and enter the door. If you enter too slowly or press up before throwing the Shy Guy, you'll likely take damage. If you're having a hard time getting the timing down, you could ditch the Shy Guy a little sooner and only lose a little bit of time, but honestly, it's not too bad. Inside the cave, run off of the platform where you begin, jump over the first Cobrat, then jump again into the vase after the second Cobrat. If you happen to enter the wrong vase, which is easier to do than I'd like to admit, use the time spent falling to build some speed to the left for a faster exit than waiting to leave on the right. Inside of the correct vase, let yourself fall to the platform before running to the left so that the Shy Guy walks to the right. Shy Guys will always start facing the direction that you are in when they change levels. This will give you time to dig straight down to the key without zigzagging. You can simply mash, or you can learn the rhythm for digging. 2-1 is a great place to practice digging if you're having trouble with this section. If you happen to already be good at digging, I do cover the zigzagging strat towards the end of this video, though it doesn't really save that much time. At the bottom, position yourself directly over the left or right edge of the key. Putting yourself here will let you grab the key without digging the sand out from around it. One small jump and 4 big jumps will get you onto the lower right floating platform. continue jumping up the platforms and out of the vase. You can simply jump over the mushroom block into the next platform without hitting the Phanto, but I tend to duck jump as an added precaution. Run over to the right and enter the door. You'll always beat the Phanto here, so just be deliberate about the door entry and you'll be fine. For the Birdo fight, grab the third block and be aggressive. Toad is fast enough that you can pretty much call the shots here. If you play the level well with these strats, you'll enter the fight right as Birdo begins a volley of 3 fireballs. Throwing and jumping at the same time will let you grab the block again for the next hit in time. If you made any minor mistakes in this level, you'll likely only have to deal with 1 or 2 fireballs before Birdo takes a little break. Enter the Hawk door and remind yourself that you need to select Luigi, 1 to the left, for the next level. You'll need to stay on your toes for the rest of the run, as there are things to do at the very beginning of the remaining levels other than just run to the right. In 6-2, jump very shortly after gaining control of Luigi to clear the first ledge, and then jump up again and enter the door. And before anyone gets too anxious, yes, I will cover the double jumps as well as the quick kill on Birdo in the advanced strat section. I would not recommend either for sub 9 attempts. Grab the pumpkin and run off onto the next platform. Jump onto the front of the first of the 3 albatrosses, turning back shortly before landing to slow yourself down. Immediately jump again, and once you've gained some height, start holding right again. When Luigi is about 1/3 of the way between these 2 stars, quickly release and re-grab the run button to throw the pumpkin. Do not let go of jump for this. Land on the front half of this platform as to not spawn any Bezos from the right, and then head back to the left. Shortly before running off the platform, jump and then start going back right. Land on the newly spawned albatross and jump again. Release the jump button as Luigi and the first Bezo begin to overlap. This will put you on the 3rd Bezo, and a full jump will then take you to the next albatross to land on. Jump again and release around when this vegetable appears on screen so that you land near the left edge of the platform. Immediately jump again, and then jump again from the Bezo. Trust this jump. You don't need to release A until immediately before landing on this top albatross. If you release too soon and jump from closer to the middle of the bird, you won't clear the next gap. Perform a small jump onto the 3rd albatross, and then do another large jump. I like to release the jump button when the off-screen Luigi is almost to this dim star here, so that he lands on the front of the next albatross, making clearing the final ledge without bonking a bit easier. A small turnback or a bonk isn't the end of the world with the Birdo strat I'll cover in this section. Crouch jump from the very edge of the platform onto the mushroom block. Drop it onto Birdo so that it ends up on the middle tile below. Go back to the left and grab the lower block, then drop it onto Birdo. Jump up and take intentional damage so that you can be directly on top of the orb for a quick grab after the 3rd hit. Releasing right prior to making the 3rd hit will cause the block to drop onto the 2nd tile, giving you a larger platform to land on and jump from, though you can still land on the mushroom block in the center if you throw your block instead of dropping it for the 3rd hit. Head to the right and exit the level. At the start of 6-3, jump up and grab the ladder. Perform a ladder jump, and then another small ladder jump near the top. Careful not to jump too high and end up on top of the ceiling. I prefer the right side of the ladder, but the left side is just as good. Hold up and right at the start of the next screen so that you can ladder jump up to the potion. Grab it, jump to the small cactus, and then again to the taller cactus. You immediately get full run speed if you land while moving in the direction you're holding on the D-pad and also the run button. So try to be moving to the left as you land on the taller cactus. There's no need to swing far out to the right though. Full jump towards the wall and quickly release and re-grab the run button without letting go of jump to throw the potion. Most people will either use the cloud or the ladder as their visual cue for when to throw. Continue holding the jump button until shortly before you land on the potion. I find that turning back on the potion makes it a bit easier to time the next jump, which also allows you to clear the top of the wall with a little bit of speed. For the strats that I'm covering in this section, a potion jump without a turn back is just fine too if you're more comfortable with that setup. Once you've landed on the top platform, do a small jump so that you can begin building some downward momentum towards the door. This is obviously off screen, so you'll simply need to practice to get a feel for the timing here. If you press jump before landing, simply run off the platform instead of trying to jump farther to the left on this platform. Enter the door and remind yourself to go left on the other side. Once you've started moving left, a full jump will put you safely on a cloud. Jump over and head into the door for the Birdo fight. In the next room, jump so that Luigi's head bonks right about here. There's no need to duck jump if you simply hit the ceiling and continue holding jump. Grab the block and make it your #1 priority to safely get up to the platform with Birdo. If it looks like we could have taken advantage of that egg, it's because we could have. There are a number of variations for both this Birdo fight as well as the upcoming Triclide fight. Even if what I'm about to cover is how you plan to approach this level, I'd still highly recommend checking out the advanced strat section for this level. There's a 1 in 8 chance that Birdo will troll you with a fireball, so if nothing else, you'll want a backup strat for how to fight Triclide as small Luigi. There's a lot going on for these fights, so I'm opting to move all but one strat to later in this video. Position yourself in front of Birdo and wait for an egg. As soon as an egg is visible on screen, drop the block and then move forward slightly. Duck and let the block bounce off of your head once, then move out of the way and collect the orb. Enter the Hawkmouth door while crouched so that holding the jump button will let you float over to the platform on the next screen. If you forget to do this, a full jump with running speed will get you back up to the top. Do a little turn back in midair as to not land on the floating platform, and grab one of the central blocks of your choosing while moving to the right. Wait for the gap in Triclide's fireballs, which follow the same pattern every time, and jump up and place the block right on his pedestal. Try to land on the far right block and grab it while sliding to the left. Immediately jump up to the platform and take damage. You want to either be on the platform as I'm showing you here, or right on top of Triclide when you take damage, as it kills your jump. Jump over and make 2 hits. Head back down and wait for the door animation jingle to conclude. We're on to the home stretch now, World 7. At the start of 7-1, jump up to the lowest cloud and come to a stop. Jump up, and shortly before reaching the second cloud, start holding left. Full jump to the ladder and climb your way to the next screen. You can do this screen slightly faster by taking advantage of screen wraps, but there's a risk of a fairly significant time loss if not done well, and it's also not necessary unless you're trying to reach the very fastest possible rocket cycle. Fast rocket is one of the hardest tricks in the game, and I will not be covering it as I am simply not yet capable of doing it myself. Hold up and right and jump to the pillar when you gain control of Luigi. Try to land while moving to the left to immediately gain full run speed and thus full jump height. Do an arching jump back to the right and land on the albatross. Build some speed to the left and jump to the first pillar. I release the jump button when there's a small gap between the pillar and the life meter. Jump again to the next pillar using the same visual cue for when to release A. Tap the jump button to make it to the cloud without going over. Do a little turn back in midair if it looks like you might be going too far. Full jump from the end of the cloud and release jump as soon as you've cleared the pillar before the rocket. This demonstration shows Luigi just barely making the 64 frame long frame rule for this rocket, hence the short animation before the rocket takes off. The next slower cycle would use the same strats throughout the level but with a slightly different Birdo fight. It's good to have a plan of attack for both cycles. At this level, this rocket cycle and the one slower are the two you'll get barring a noticeable mistake. When you jump up on this sniffet and over the next pillar, 2 sniffet shots to the right would indicate you didn't make this earlier cycle. You can platform through this section how you see fit, but make sure you end up on this sniffet on the pillar. Big jump off of it as it jumps, and keep track of how fast Luigi traverses the level. Once he's off screen, you'll need to imagine where he is. When you're confident he's cleared the pillar, switch from holding right to holding up and left to grab the ladder near the top. There's probably an audio cue you could use for an ideal ladder grab, but I generally struggle with good audio cues and couldn't offer any advice. There are several minor variations on how to handle the ladder section of this level. What I'm going to show is a very consistent way to handle it if you are deliberate about your diagonal inputs on the ladder jumps. Jump to the left to land on the cloud, jump up to the next 2 levels and position yourself under the ladder above. Grab it on the left side, ladder jump, and then ladder jump again, arcing over to the leftmost block on the top row. Charge a super jump and grab the ladder above. Ladder jump once, straight up, and then again to the top of the left ladder. Landing here will allow you to scope out the sniffet shot situation before jumping to the central ladder. Ladder jump yet again, and then once more up to the door. You can either start holding jump on the screen transition, or as soon as you run off of the platform so that you float over to the block. Grab it, jump up, and throw it against the wall. Jump over and grab the block again. A good strategy, especially if you're still Big Luigi, is to keep the block close to you for the fight, versus the typical Toad strat of jumping back and forth. Luigi is too slow for that to make sense. You'll want to find a consistent way to do the ladder section, so that there are really only 2 possible Birdo patterns you'll get, depending on which rocket cycle you hit. Exit the level, and thank Luigi for his services. We're back to Toad for the final level. In 7-2, jump your way over to the front of the first pillar with a sniffet. It will either shoot 1 or 2 shots shortly after you get there. As soon as they pass, jump up and grab it. Jump down to the cloud after the second sniffet, and then on top of the third sniffet. Make sure to not simply run off of the third sniffet, as it can hit you with a shot if you don't jump here. Ditch the sniffet and enter the door. Run to the right and duck jump over the first Shy Guy and then again onto the second. To grab this Shy Guy, you need to release the down button prior to pressing B. Jump up to the top conveyor belt and then again to shortly after the first of the 3 Ninjas. A little turn back here won't hurt you before jumping over the remaining 2 Ninjas. The jumping pattern of these 3 Ninjas is on a timer from when you select your character for the level, so it's important to do the first portion of this level as consistently as possible so that you know what the Ninjas will do when you get to them. Jump your way past the next conveyor belt, and then up to the next one. Take advantage of the full speed boost from this one by simply running off of the end. Immediately jump over the fireballs from the Panzer, and then keep an eye out for whether or not the final Panzer spawns. If it does, simply hesitate a moment before jumping over the fireballs. Jump up, throw the Shy Guy, and climb to the next section. In this room, simply hold left to start. You'll fall to a false floor. Hesitate a brief moment and then jump up. Hold both B and left here. The little hesitation makes it pretty easy to duck jump under the first spark, and not slowing down at all makes getting under the second spark 100% consistent. Jump up, grab the chain, and start climbing, but do not transition to the next room. Instead, chain jump up to the roof. The lowest point you can jump from is right around when the top of Toad's head is even with the middle of this partial brick. Jump over the first 2 gaps for the chains, and then prepare to fall into the third. If you haven't made any major mistakes, you'll likely need to contend with this egg or a fireball. You can either grab the chain on the way down, though be careful not to use the up button to do so if you're near the top of the screen, or you can wait at the top. If you haven't made any mistakes at all, you should also be able to simply drop down and jump over the danger. Grab the key, let Birdo get out of the way, and enter the door. On this next screen, there are 2 main ways to get through. At the time of recording this, my preference was to wait a split second before jumping on the first floating platform and then over the second. Duck jump over to the door, making sure not to take damage from the Phanto. A small bonk is preferable to taking damage. The much safer and only slightly slower way to get through here is to slide duck under the first, and then you have a much safer passage to the door. I have since switched to this method the majority of the time, unless I think I'm on track to barely miss a cycle on Wart. In the next room, head to the right. Pass on the first block as it's difficult to grab without any slowdowns. Grab the second block, and then jump up to the orb. Drop the block, grab the orb, and then re-grab the block for a fight against everyone's childhood terrifier, the Mask Gate, or as I like to call it, Ethan Hawke. Build speed and jump directly into Ethan Hawke, releasing and re-grabbing the run button when you're above the edge of the platform. This should cause the block to bounce hard enough to score 2 hits on Ethan. Grab the block again and throw it for the 3rd hit. You can make it in time for the same Wart cycle as we are going to here without damage boosting on the Mask fight, but the Wart fight ends up being considerably easier as Small Toad. And should you take damage earlier in the level, here's what this fight would look like as Small Toad. I strongly recommend using a segment timer for 7-2. Wart's movement is based on when you spawn him, but his bubble shots are based on the level timer from when you select your character. It's very important that his movement matches up nicely. I split on a specific note during the bonus chance game jingle, as demonstrated here. With that timing, I know I need to start moving to the right in Wart's throne room at 1 minute, 2 seconds, and between 2 and 5/10ths of a second, or any increment of 4.2 seconds after that. This will guarantee getting a good pattern for Wart. In the advanced strat section, I'll also cover what needs to be done to hit the 58-second cycle. Head over to Wart and position yourself on the right side of the middle platform. Grab the veggie as it comes out, and if your timing for entering the fight was right, you can simply run into Wart's platform, jump, and throw the veggie. No need to hold right since Wart will be so close and you don't want to risk taking damage. The next veggie will come out of the right pipe and shoot towards the left. I tend to stand on the right edge of the middle platform to grab it, chuck it at Wart, and head back to where you were for the first veggie. I charge a super jump to guarantee a good grab on the veggie, but this isn't necessary. Run over and throw it at Wart. Careful to avoid the bubbles, head to the right side of the left platform. I again charge a super jump, and again it is not necessary. Grab it and run over to make the 4th hit on Wart. There are a couple ways to make the 5th hit. The safest way I found is to position Toad so that his back is aligned to the seam between these 2 floating blocks. When the veggie appears, run right and jump from the edge of the platform. At the apex of your jump, release and re-grab the run button to throw the veggie. Again, assuming your timing for entering the Wart fight was good, this should hit Wart over his bubbles. The other common way is to do a little duck jump under Wart's bubbles for a close range hit. This method is a bit more forgiving timing-wise, but a mistake here will cost you the run instead of costing you 4 seconds. It's also possible to throw the veggie from the right platform under Wart's bubbles, but I find this to be the hardest of the 3 methods. For the 6th hit, stand on the right side of the right platform, and when the veggie appears, jump up, and when you grab it, start holding right and let yourself fall a little bit before throwing it at Wart. A safer method would be to land back down on the platform before jumping again and throwing. If you happen to miss the 5th hit, the 7th veggie will spawn in the same place as the 5th. You can simply run off of the top left platform when the veggie appears, run over, and make a standard hit on Wart. For sub-9 attempts, you very likely won't need an 8th veggie. That said, I'll post a link in the description to an older video where I cover Wart mechanics in a bit more depth. Once you've defeated Wart, position yourself next to this pillar and hold right. Once Toad begins to move, roll from right to up on the D-pad. Optionally, you can hold run here as well to save a couple frames. And congratulations! If you've been able to follow this tutorial in a run, you just completed Super Mario Bros. 2 in about 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Up next is an uninterrupted run at full speed, and after that, I'll cover a handful of more advanced strats in case you want to push your sum of best segments a bit lower or even closer to the 830 mark. Thank you all for watching, and I'll pick things back up in about 9 minutes. In 1-1, there is not a known way to reach Birdo an egg cycle sooner. The world record level strats are incredibly challenging, so I'm going to let the pros cover that. I'll link to CoolKid's advanced 1-1 tutorial in the description. In 1-2, there are a few ways to go faster. The first is to select Luigi instead of Toad. Run to the end of the first platform and jump onto the third green platform. From this area here, full jump up to the Bezo and then do another full jump. If you brush this Bezo, you may end up needing to release jump a bit earlier to adjust where you land, but otherwise you'll land on this platform here. Run on to the next one and jump from about the midpoint into the second vase. Allow yourself to fall to the key, grab it, and begin going left. Jump up to the floating platform above, and then onto the ledge, and then out of the vase. Small jump over to the second ninja and immediately begin charging a super jump. Make sure to release the run button before jumping, because otherwise you would drop the key. We want to run, however, so quickly pause and unpause to give yourself a chance to hold B again. Do a full jump over the next two enemies to bait the Phanto into going up high. Jump down and then up to the door. A full jump from just past this first tree will get you up onto Birdo's platform. Run over, come to a complete stop, and drop the key. The bounce will score a second hit. Jump up to grab the key for the third hit. If Birdo walks towards you, use the opportunity for a damage boost and fast orb grab. An even faster, albeit much riskier way to do 1-2 involves what's known as the veggie glitch. While it does save a considerable amount of time over the standard 1-2, it's not at all necessary for sub-9 attempts. At this level, lots of late game reps are your best friend, and losing a lot of runs in 1-2 isn't the way to do that. Once you have some consistency in later levels though, this strat is a game changer. Immediately jump your way into the Pidgey, and preferably with a duck jump to make things a bit easier. As soon as the damage stun expires, jump up and grab the Pidgey. Throw it to the right as it'll get off screen sooner. Getting it off screen is important as you'll want to move as little distance to the left as possible, and having the bird still on screen will prevent the next carpet from spawning. Grab the new Pidgey and head right. Align the carpet to the top of this cherry stem. It's better to be slightly too low than too high, as you can raise the carpet through the next platform, but you can't lower it enough to grab the potion. When you're between the next cherry and the potion, throw the Pidgey to bop both of the enemies to the right. Grab the potion and keep heading to the right. When you're above the third to last veggie in this group, jump and throw, and attempt to land in the same spot that the potion will. Enter the door and immediately exit. The goal is to press and hold B on the very first frame Toad appears on screen to grab the veggie in a glitched state. The veggie gets loaded into memory, but Toad still has the ability to go through doors with it. If you press B too early, nothing will happen, and if you were too late, you would pick up the vegetable without a glitch. When you get it, head over to the Birdo fight. Jump up and run right at Birdo. As you throw, jump at the same time to the other side, trying to position yourself under the veggie. When it's above you, jump into it to re-grab it, and repeat the process until you've quickly disposed of Birdo. If you're having trouble getting yourself under the vegetables after you throw them at Birdo, you can also grab them from the top, though this does take a little bit more time. After the third hit, collect the orb and head to 1-3. In this level, there's only a minor possible time save. Instead of grabbing the Shy Guy, you can pick up the Sniffit from below. As soon as you can safely clear the first Sniffit, jump and release the run button to slightly slow yourself down. When your hitboxes begin to overlap, re-grab run, and then proceed with the rest of the level as usual. In 4-1, the first possible improvement is with a relatively newly discovered glitch. In SMB2, when you pause the game, pressing A, B, and up at the same time on the second controller kills your character. This can be useful should you soft lock the game, but when done inside of a rocket, it actually causes the rocket to go much faster and also to take off immediately regardless of frame rules. The earliest you want to initiate the kill code is when the rocket's trail appears. Do note that this glitch drains your character to 0 HP, though you're still able to continue the level. As such, it's been dubbed the zombie rocket. One hit will kill you, so you may want to adjust the rest of your 4-1 strats accordingly. Later in the level, there are a few ways to go ever so slightly faster than previously shown. The double jump over the first set of stairs can be done without turning back or waiting for Toad to fall onto the flurry. From the very edge of this platform, full jump onto the taller of the next 2 pillars and run onto the flurry below. On the back half of the flurry, as quickly as you can, release, re-grab, release, and re-grab again the run button to throw the Shy Guy and pick up the flurry. Holding jump briefly in midair can help make this interaction take place slightly farther to the right, which makes the next part a tiny bit easier. The double jump from here onto the next Shy Guy is on par with the full height double jump backup in 1-1. This strat saves very little time versus the other methods and cannot be done this way as Small Toad. If you're looking to save some time in 4-1, the zombie rocket and possibly the safer double jump setup would be my recommendations. Next, you can get through the second set of stairs slightly faster by jumping onto and off of the Autobomb Shy Guy instead of doing a more exaggerated turn-back jump straight over it. In 4-2, there's really only one way to go faster than what I originally outlined. If you're comfortable with aiming your potion throws, you can throw it onto the vase from midair, eliminating the need to come to a complete stop. Since 6-1 isn't already difficult enough, we can get through the section with the 2 pokies and the Panzer a bit faster. From the second pokey, do a small duck jump. As soon as you're in the air, do a brief left press to slow yourself down before returning to holding right. This will let you sneak under the fireball. It's technically possible to do this without a turn back, and I believe even without ducking, but I wouldn't recommend it. You can also shave off a tiny bit of time in the digging section by not waiting as long to start moving left. This will cause the Shy Guy to turn left at the bottom, which will necessitate a way to avoid it falling on you as you dig. There are a few variations, but probably the most common is to start digging 1 tile to the right of the key, dig 1 to the right, and then 2 back to the left to get above the key. This will cause the Shy Guy to go left again when it falls down, keeping Toad safe from danger. 6-2 has a pair of spicier strats, which both carry a fair amount of risk. We can actually skip grabbing the veggie by abusing Luigi's absurd double jumping height and distance. The first step is to land on the very front of the first of the 3 left-facing albatrosses. This can be done by full jumping from the darker partial brick prior to the pumpkin. Jump again as soon as you land on it, and then do another full jump as soon as you've reached the top bird. It's important for the double jump to spend as little time on top of this albatross as possible. Quickly release and re-grab the A button near the peak of Luigi's jump using the same stars as before as your visual cue. Next, wait for the off-screen Luigi to reach this star. Quickly switch from right to left for just long enough that Luigi begins moving left. You don't want to just slow down, you want to ever so slightly go left to spawn the next albatross. Head back to the right to land on that albatross, and land on it while moving right to get full jump height. Jump from the Bezo and again do a double jump near the peak of Luigi's jump. The rest of the level is the same as the previous method. If the entire level is done mistake-free with this strat, including decent door entries and not bonking or slowing down on the final ledge, there's also an opportunity for a faster but much harder Birdo fight. When your life meter is just beyond the far right portion of the door, press and hold jump. Release once Luigi has cleared the ledge, so that you land on the mushroom block below. Grab it, run over, and stop on the seam between the second and third tiles on Birdo's platform. Drop the block, run forward a bit, and jump into Birdo. Re-grab the block and place it 1 tile to the left. Birdo's orb and this block will act as your platform. The timing for the first section is so important because we need Birdo to walk into the falling blocks instead of stopping to shoot fireballs. Repeat the process once more and collect the orb. Build a little bit of speed on the block so that you can make it back up to the top. In 6-3, I hinted that there are quite a few ways to do the Birdo and Triclide fights. I'm going to start with Triclide and then swing back to Birdo. First, if you took damage to Birdo and need to fight Triclide small, you obviously can't damage boost. One safe way to do the fight small is start by again grabbing one of the central mushroom blocks. Triclide begins by shooting 3 fireballs, then 2, then 1, and then another 2. When the final 2 have started to pass, jump into the pillar with Triclide and near the top of your jump, start holding left. Once you begin to move left, throw the block. Land on the second to last block and grab it while sliding over to the last block. When the next 4 fireballs pass, jump up and repeat the same hit as before. If you're fast about grabbing the final block, you can simply immediately jump up and place it on Triclide's pedestal. Otherwise, simply wait for another volley of 4 fireballs before making the last hit. This kill can also be done as Big Luigi, but it's a bit slower than the damage boost strat, which isn't terribly difficult to get the hang of. A faster variation of this fight can also be done. When you enter the Triclide room, release jump as soon as you've floated over enough to land on the left edge of the platform. Immediately jump up and then release when Luigi bonks his head on the ceiling. This setup will allow you to fall quickly enough to not land on the floating platform. Grab the block you land on and immediately go in for a hit. If you are fast on the first hit, you'll likely need to briefly hold A to slow your fall to avoid taking damage from the previous fireballs. Immediately grab the next block and go in for another hit. On the third hit, you'll need to continue holding jump to give the fireballs time to pass. There's a chance Triclide can shoot more fireballs after taking the third hit, which would kill small Luigi. Doing the fight as fast as possible, or doing a deliberate hesitation prior to the final hit, seem to be the best ways to avoid taking damage from beyond the grave. This fight can also be done as Big Luigi, and obviously then you wouldn't have to worry about any phantom fireballs killing you. Going back to Birdo, there's a faster way to do that fight if you get there in time. You'll need good ladder jumps in the first room, a fast setup for the potion jump, avoiding the bonk by turning back on the potion, building downward speed towards the secret door, and clean door entries to get to the fight in time for this method. If everything goes absolutely perfectly, you'll need a tiny hesitation somewhere. The fight starts the same as before with bonking the ceiling to facilitate grabbing the block. Instead of jumping up to Birdo's platform, we'll make a hit as she shoots out the egg that we had mentioned earlier in the video. As that block scores 2 hits, jump up and grab it. Damage boost for a fast orb grab on the final hit. Obviously, if you do this strat, you'll need to pick one of the small Luigi Triclide fights. Generally speaking, runners tend to go for the faster Triclide kill with Big Luigi prior to adding the faster Birdo kill to their runs, but you can mix and match however you see fit. There are a number of minor variations on the 7-1 ladder section. The only one that has a decent risk-reward ratio for anyone not already going for fast rocket is to sneak in 1 extra ladder jump. One common way to do this is by heading straight up the second ladder and going directly to the central ladder on the third jump. From this point, jump to the left ladder and then another to the door. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to stick to a consistent way to do this screen so you know what Birdo will do. For 7-2, there are a number of things you'll need to do in order to reach Wart a cycle sooner. On the first screen, immediately jump up, mindful not to make your jump heights too large as you then need to wait for Toad to fall, skip the hesitation prior to jumping, and brush the pillar before grabbing the first sniffet. A cleaner grab can actually result in the sniffet shooting to the right, but this brush has so far been 100% consistent for avoiding that. Jump over and enter the door. You'll get a different ninja pattern using this method, so I tend to aim to squeeze under the second and over the third. Proceed through the conveyor belt section, and if you need to hesitate for the final panzer, I'd recommend adding a chain jump to make up some time. It's not strictly necessary, but it will make getting around the Birdo with a key a little bit easier. In the Spark Room, another way you can make up some time is to do a chain jump lower on the chain before jumping up again for the skip. If you get a good jumping grab on the chain though, you can likely skip this one. The Birdo with the key shooting to the left is a pretty good sign that you're on track, though it can even shoot to the right if you're early enough. Either way, you should be able to simply drop down and grab the key. Jump onto Birdo and wait for the shot to pass, and then immediately enter the door. If the door entry was clean, you can go bottom route to avoid the sparks and Phanto. Again, skip the first block and take the second one. Full jump onto the orb and release the run button just before landing so you quickly come to a complete stop. Drop the block, grab the orb, and pick up the block again. Dispose of Ethan Hawke, and if everything went well, you can simply immediately head into the Wart fight. And that concludes this tutorial. Thank you all for sticking with me through it. Selfishly, I wouldn't be opposed to you dropping me a follow on Twitch and my other socials. And selflessly, I would love to see you get some juicy PBs using these strats.